Is it digital? Is it physical? It's art.
If you are fortunate enough to be born with a gift, it is also your responsibility to share that gift, not only to benefit yourself, but to benefit others, your people, your community.
Live with your work, artists. See which ones are misbehaving. Which ones are sitting around your studio that need more attention? The ones you noticed you just did and that came out of habit, not disruption or uncertainty.
The answer is a direct connection. Put your artwork in front of others as much as you can. And of course, use a website, use any means necessary to get your artwork in front. You don't know what's working until you try.
You just keep going.
There's no choice, right?
There's no choice.
Yeah.
And you can't be a victim because then you're not going to keep going.
I think posting online and just telling people like, I'm going to do this thing for 365 days. That is motivating. That's exciting.
You are musical. You are artistic. We all have a gift. We all have a gift. We just have to find it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Jeff Sass, the CMO of .art Registry, and on behalf of Olvi and the entire .art team, I'm happy to welcome you here today. We've got a great webinar coming up with some really interesting guests and some really interesting information and inspiring information, I think, for all of the artists out there. So .art, as you know, is the registry operator for the top-level domain .art. And you can get that at anywhere you would get your domain names. And we're very excited to talk about our .art Award, which is one of the bases for today's webinar. So the .art Award is open for applications now, and there are a number of great prizes, including a grand prize of $15,000 and over $50,000 worth of prizes. But one of the more exciting prizes we have for the award is a month-long stay at an artist residency. And today we're going to focus on one of those artist residencies. And we're also happy to introduce the sponsor of that prize, is.art. So just like you can get yourname.art, you can also get yourname.is.art. So it's a third level domain. And it's a great way to point another .art domain to one of your social media handles or another platform where your art is seen. So you can use it in concert with your regular .art domain. So if your .art domain is pointing to your website, your is.art domain can be pointing to your Instagram page or another platform. So it's designed to make it very easy to attach a great domain to an online handle where your work is shown. So we'll learn more about that in today's webinar. And as far as the award goes, as you may know, the application for the .art Award is your .art URL, and I'm happy to say that that URL can be your name.art or your .art domain, or it can be your is.art domain. So your name.is.art would also be qualified as an application for the .art Award. So maybe you can use an is.art award and win the residency we'll be talking about today. And lastly, I just want to mention that when you're supporting .art, you're also supporting our Healing Power of Art initiative. It's inspired by our official artist, Medina, and we really believe very strongly in the healing power of art. And we do a lot of content and other things to support access to and awareness to art therapy and the healing power of art. So we thank you for your support of that as well. With that, I'd like to turn over the microphone, so to speak, to our hosts today, Anastasia and Daria.
Hello, Jeff. Thank you for the intros.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all once again. And Jeff introduced already the .art Award. I just wanted also to add that this award is open to artists and artist collectives working in any media and anywhere in the world. So, but the only thing is like the applicant has to be 18 years of age or older. We also want to point out that this is not the award which is focused, for example, on the design of the website, but this is the award focused on the narratives and storytelling and creative processes behind the artwork creation. So this is something we really want to point out. And of course, like more can be found on the website of the award. It's just award.art, pretty straightforward domain name. Yeah, and indeed, as Jeff mentioned, there are a lot of amazing prizes, and one of them is 1 month at Château du Fresne Residency. And today we have with us the co-founder of the Château du Fresne Artist Residency, curator and cultural producer, and colleague of ours for quite some years, Gijs Stork. And Gijs will be actually giving us a little live tour from Chateau today. So that's very exciting. This is we haven't done it before in the live mode. So
hello, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me because I don't hear anybody. You hear me? Okay, good.
We can hear you.
I missed completely the introduction, so I hope you mentioned my name, maybe. And welcome at Château du Fresne. I'm just starting, Daria, with the tour. That's the idea, because there was no sound. So welcome. I'm Gijs Stork, and I'm in France, and it's very hot here. It's around 44 degrees every day. We're in the middle of France, and I don't know why it's so hot here, but it's the hottest part in Europe, which is also nice because it's also one of the nicest parts in Europe, and it's the Mayenne. It's a neighborhood nobody really knows, and it's very quiet and very special because there's a lot of history. And the house is sort of part of this huge, huge history. I'm giving you a quick tour, like Japanese style, through the chateau, and hopefully you can hear me. But at least you can see the images. And I'm going to switch the camera because I'm not so interesting to look at, but the chateau is. So I'm trying to go to the other side of the yes. And here we are. Here you can see the chateau. This is the stables, and there on that side is the artist in residence, the studio. Here we have other stables, and here you see slowly the chateau, which is a 18th century facade in front of a 12th, 13th, 14th century castle. The oldest part in the chateau is the chapel, and we're going now to the chapel. And you also see there an exhibition of two of the artists we had as artists in residence, or coming as artists in residence. And one is this big mice thing. It's made by Eric Giraudet de Bourdemange. He also has a big exhibition now in the Mayenne. And you see art pieces by Samuel Sarmiento, artist from Venezuela, which is coming to be an artist in residence in the near future. And we also have a small presentation. But the chapel in general is 12th century. So it's a beautiful old chapel. You also go outside. We do a lot of exhibitions actually everywhere. And here you have the pigeon house. I'll show you the pigeon house. This is the reason why we are the highest class of monument in France, because there's only one of these in France from 1536, so really old. And I think I'll take you inside the house now. You see, it's very quiet. This is normally we have tables of friends, visitors, artists having dinner here outside always because it's beautiful weather here. And we take you in the salon, which is here. So this is 17th century, and you see there's a complete mix of contemporary art in a very traditional house. Here, Marlène Dumas, like all sorts of famous artists. We have a very special one that's original from 1647, and it's a copy of a painting by Rubens, originally made for the Town Hall of Brussels, and 30 years later it was here repainted in Champignon in our castle, which is very special. So you have an idea of the mix of contemporary art in this old house. And here's the most beautiful room of the house. It's called Chambre du Roi. And as you can see, it has these beautiful murals, amazing woodwork, and a beautiful room, all made out of wood, and it's from 1647. And you see this fantastic woodworks which is a lot of inspiring for a lot of artists who came here. And here you have a portrait of Louis XIV, the Sun King, when he was 9 years old, which is super special because it was made when he was 9 years old. And on this side, you have his brother, Philippe d'Orléans. And I'm also not missing to introduce already your other speaker. So here is the most scary part of the house. It's this mask. People are really scared about the mask of the rabbit. And look what one of the artists in residence made out of it. So it's very special. We have this combination of contemporary art and like old pieces. And we go, I hope you still hear me. We're going to the central staircase with a sculpture of bread made by Les Copains, 3 young artists who did the Design Academy in Eindhoven and made a big sculpture out of bread, all inspired on the house. And you see again, this is the Blue Salon, which is one of the most beautiful rooms of the house, very chateau-like, more light, bright place. And you see like really chateau things, but always a mix with contemporary art and pieces we did with artists in the past. So I'm going to take you out. I'm clueless if you can hear me because I cannot hear anybody. But this is Château du Fresne, and everything is possible. We made exhibitions in the stables. We made exhibitions outside. There, for example, is a contemporary artwork by Gigli, and there, the stables, the gallery. There's an old oven, and I'm going back to my place where I'm sitting and watching the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Gijs. Just showing you thumbs up in case you can see us and not hear us. But that was great. Yes.
Yes.
I can
You
hear
still
you.
can't hear us, no?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, well, that's great. That was amazing. Daria, I think we had some questions for Gijs before we introduce Mako as well, whose artwork Gijs already showed, right?
Yeah, let's talk. Let's
I
jump.
cannot hear you, Daria.
You can't. Well,
No.
Sorry.
and I'm sorry, I can't ask the questions. But Anastasia,
Nothing.
Can you hear me? No.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you, but not Daria, no.
Oh, that's a shame because Daria is the one who kindly prepared all the questions. That's fine though, because basically maybe I could ask you a few things as well. Obviously, this is a very beautiful place, but maybe you could give us also a bit of a story behind how you acquired it and what kind of environment you were hoping to create for the artists, except, for all the beauty.
We bought it in 2022 after almost during COVID to make a place a little bit far away from the urban life and in the very rural environment of France. And the amazing thing is that it became really a very social and community project with local artists. We found a lot of people who are interested in culture and art. In general, French people are much more interested in culture and art. It worked really well to have an atmosphere that's really safe and quiet. But again, in like 8 kilometers, there's a small art academy. There are around us a lot of contemporary art spaces and a lot of people who are from Paris and living here and connected with the contemporary art world. So it's like quiet. You can work here quiet, but like in a few minutes, you have a very good contemporary art network. And the most special thing for us is arriving here with the idea to open the gates for art lovers and culture lovers, doing a lot of concerts, theater pieces, exhibitions. We're in the Nuit Blanche. We're working together with all sorts of cultural also groups and organizations local. So in a very quick time, we were really connected with what's happening here. And that's like super nice because people in this sort of atmosphere are not like when you're in Amsterdam. Well, maybe I saw so much already. 40 galleries, I'm only going to 4. And here we're like, there's something happening. So a lot of people come, like thousands and thousands of people come when we do something, when we organize something. So that's really special.
And what do you think makes an artist residency transformative for the artists? Is it because they're away from their daily routine? Is it because they're connecting with nature or with the other artists there?
What we experience is that I think what makes it maybe a little bit more special here is that a lot of the art residencies are a white cube where you can work, and you can work on a certain project, and you're away from your studio, and you have a sort of working time. And what we experience is that a lot of the artists who come here are one way or the other inspired by what's happening here. And it can be everything. It can be nature. It can be the history of the house. It can be the architecture of the house. It can be a lot of things. But a lot of the artists and also the musicians and the writers are inspired. They're not particularly coming here for finding this inspiration, but the inspiration will find them. And it makes like them work like crazy. So that's also what we experience is that people wake up hardly time for breakfast. So you stay with us, you stay in the house, you're sleeping in the house, and then start working. And we always do lunch together, and we dine together and talk what happened that day. But then after dinner, most of the time they go back to the studio and work because they are limited in time. And but it's a crazy inspirational place. So that's what's happening often.
Yeah. And speaking of work, how do you measure the success of a residency? Is it the amount of artworks produced? Is it the connections made? Or maybe it's something less tangible for you?
I think for us, it's what the programs are normally that people come and that in the middle of the residency, we organize something like a meet and greet with art people from the neighborhood, and that they can also visit the studio and see or talk with other people, not us, but other people who are related to art. And then at the end, we do an exhibition. And I think that if for us, if really something happened here, and it was not just 4 weeks of or 5 weeks or 6 weeks of just being in solitude, but working on a project. If that is working, then I think it's amazing. It's every time it's amazing because it always something comes out that's really, really special.
And since we're here to talk also about the Dot Art Award and you're the juror, as a juror, what kind of qualities do you expect from the applications we're going to receive, like the top tip or the things you really want to see in the applications?
I think that would be because I heard that there are a lot of applications. So I think that will be very, very special to see. Because no artist is the same like another artist, so I think it will be difficult to choose one finally. But it will. I don't know. I think we have to be aware that it's for some artists this is working, and for some artists maybe it's not really working to be in the middle of nowhere. Maybe some want to be really in a village or have some more life around it, which is like 8 minutes from here, so you're not in that country. But I think we have to. For me, we have to look for someone who thinks that this will work also for them. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yes, and as you said, we have actually over 500 applications at this point, so it's quite a milestone.
Yeah, crazy, yeah.
Please do apply because the competition is, it's getting crazy. So
there's still quite some time to go, right? So the first.
Daria, I don't hear you. Sorry.
That's okay. Daria is just thinking about the deadline. The deadline is November 1st. Gijs, thank you so much. We'll see you at the roundtable. If anyone has questions for Gijs, please do drop them in the comment section and we'll hopefully be able to answer that. Right. Okay, Daria, let's try with the next speaker if we're more lucky in terms of...
Well, yeah, I don't know what's happening with StreamYard, because you hear me well, right? So I'm not...
I do.
Let's
and actually, Mako is not around yet. So, all right, let's just give her a minute. In the meantime, maybe you can introduce Mako. I think she's joining.
Yeah, Mako is an amazing artist from Tbilisi, and she will be showing us her art practice from her studio in Tbilisi. And she has been also in the residency at the Château, so we will be very curious to hear more about that experience. Mako, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. It's like somehow on and off, so I have to re-enter the session. So hello, my name is Mako. Thanks for introducing me. And also I'm so incredibly glad that my painting, like Bunny Head, is the part of Château du Fresne right now. And should I start the small tour?
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm gonna put you in stage.
Yeah, so this is my small studio where if I'm in Tbilisi, I always work here. I'm trying to show like most of the paintings because it's packed. So mostly my painting practice includes expressive contemporary art or surrealism, and all those paintings that you see now, it's from previous residency from Malta. And actually this painting is from Château du Fresne. Do you hear me? Yeah, so that's why I was so inspired by Château du Fresne, because I'm kind of a maximalist, and all these little objects that I've been collecting, it's serves my inspiration, like these. Sorry, do you hear me?
Yes, and we saw everything. That was really nice to show us around. Thank you. And before Daria steps in, I want to ask the question that I want to ask, because I hope it's okay to quote Gijs, but he called you a residency monster because you go to so many residencies. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're going tomorrow to your 15th or something like that. Maybe.
I've been to actually more than 20 residencies. I don't even know how I managed it over these years, but that's true. And
so
actually,
my question is, what do you do it for? What does it bring you? Yeah. What does it bring you, all these residencies? Why do you keep going?
Because transforming my art language. It's been very interesting experiences. Most of the residencies I've been to. So I think that in contemporary world for artists, it's crucial to have this access to residencies. First of all, I think that most of the artists, we are lone workers. We have to be in our studios. We are alone, and apart from this experience that being out from your usual environment, it's all about the people you meet. And then you realize that there are so many people just like you. So I think that's very crucial thing to do as an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, absolutely. I think we all feel a little bit lonely with our work this times, and being online, etc., or just indeed working in the studio. And I just wanted also to talk with you a little bit about the context of the residency of the Chateau, because I think a lot of your works, they're also taking a lot from nature inspired themes. I can imagine also that Chateau was also bringing you some inspiration in this sense, right? Because I think we've seen this this painting with the rose and fire. It was from there.
So without a doubt, every aspect of the residency left a mark on my work, specifically Château du Fresne. The atmosphere of the chateau, the history of the chateau, the object that it holds, like very interesting objects in the chateau itself, like all these artworks, like surrounding landscape, like magical, like truly magical landscapes and nature. And most of all, importantly, like the hosts, Gijs and Angelo, and their genuine passion for preserving and showing like the extraordinary place, and all became like deeply embedded in the series that I created. I created like over 70 works. Apart from that, we were moving a lot. We were going to like art markets and vintage markets and like all the surrounding villages, even cities, towns. And it was an experience where life and art naturally intertwined.
Yeah, indeed. We've met in Amsterdam during that
Yeah, even we went to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, this 1 month was like fully packed, like truly like full of inspiration.
And when you arrived to the chateau, you had some kind of idea in mind what you want to work on, or you arrived and the environment itself helped you to, to shape the direction, like what exactly to work on? Because I mean, 17 works in a month, it's huge. Really.
So as I mentioned before, and you mentioned also, like having participated in like too many art residencies, I usually arrive either with ongoing project or either openness to begin something entirely new. At Château du Fresne, I intentionally allowed the environment to guide the process. The residency exceeded my expectations, like that for sure. And instead of continuing previous work, I created a completely new series inspired by the chateau, like the objects. Like for example, I have like whole series about dripping candles, and because of this, like dripping, colorful candles all around the chateau, it became such an inspiration, and like the atmosphere and everything I experienced during my stay. So that's why I mean all these visual stimulators that this place holds, it worked really well. That's why I was so much more like being
very productive. Yeah,
very productive.
And the daily routine, as Gijs was also talking about it, that like waking up and just having quick breakfast and heading to the studio, or also like walking around, having some, inspirational moments. I don't know, how was it for you?
So the residency offered a rhythm that felt like very different from the usual studio routine.
Yeah.
Like Gijs and Angelo have such an inspiring way of living that I naturally embraced their pace of life like pretty quickly. We explored like vintage, as I said, like vintage markets. We walked a lot, like we talked a lot, we dined. Like in 1 week, I actually felt that I was the part of the family. So all these historical landmarks and stuff. I would return to the studio carrying all these fresh impressions and found their way into my paintings. The shadow itself, with its architecture, interiors, and countless details, was a constant source of inspiration. So I was like, first I was afraid that we were going around, but I thought that, oh, how can I do all these things? But it was so natural, like all the studio life. So as an art resident, it's so important not to push yourself, because it has to be like the free environment, and that I think that makes you like be even more productive.
Yeah, giving yourself the space a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that maybe Anastasia, should we, thank you so much, Mako. Should we introduce next speaker and maybe to, continue our conversation already at the roundtable later on?
Thank you, Mako. We'll see you later.
We'll see you very soon.
Yes. So next up is Roland, who is both an artist and a representative of is.art, which is a company that is actually sponsoring the Château du Fresne Foreign Artists for the .art Award. So Roland, can you hear me?
Yes, hello everybody. It's a pleasure being here. I'm a domain specialist working in the domain industry, a hobby artist, yeah, and the ambassador for is.art as well. Yes, and as I've been working for last around, I think, 3 years in the domain industry, I never understood how powerful it is to have a good domain name. And there are so many different suffixes, like around 1,500 different domains, let's say, but only few who actually represent artist professionals and represent what they could do. And I don't know how many people actually thought about the digital identity and how important it is to be found online. Does the Instagram represent their digital identity, LinkedIn? But from another point, when you share your link at the LinkedIn or Instagram, you have at the beginning promoting the Instagram and the slash, and then your name just at the end. So it's not really digital identity. So we came up with the idea that is.art actually can represent an artist or creative professionals, and we created the tool which works other way around. So at the beginning you have your name, and then is.art, so it represents what you do. Yeah. So it's very easy to find it's very easy to discover the artists, but it is actually harder to find them again, because once you guys participate in those workshops, residencies, and creating multiple networks, multiple contacts, it is quite important to have the continuation and the contact with those contacts, basically. And what would you what actually digital identity tool would you share with them? Would you share Instagram, or you say, okay, look to my portfolio or website? Or maybe it would be better to use something like digital identity tool like is.art, where it is your name is art, basically, which represents your brand. And that could be entry point, and it could be used for the multiple purposes. One, your brand it stays always the same, let's say, but you have multiple different projects. Yeah, sometimes you want people to see to lead all those people to some exhibition, and there are multiple handles you can use where you can redirect those people to that event or to some different project. So yeah. So, and also it's about so it increases your visibility online, of course, as a brand, and you end up not promoting the some Facebook or Instagram or Linktree, and you stand out as an artist. Because let's say if we're talking about Linktree gets used probably, I'm sure that many people using Linktree, but at the end of the day, Linktree is designed for all kind of professionals. It could be engineer, it could be blogger, it could be anything, and that's how we think. That's why we think that is.art, it could be good complement for the artists, digital complement. Yeah. Yes.
Maybe you could also talk a bit about
Roland.
why
sorry.
why you guys decided to sponsor the residency for the .art Awards.
Yeah.
And
so as I mentioned before, probably let's say the residency is the physical place, the workplace as well. That's where the art gets created. Yes. But the things are happen, actually a lot of things are happen online, and we thought that this good continuation that the contacts wouldn't get lost, and people would be able to develop connections with those people and have a good business with them.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just to mention before Jeff, you step in, that of course you can submit your .is.art to the .art award, and it would be valid as an application.
Yeah. And I was just going to add, Roland, I think it's great that is.art is really set up to be your handle pointing to one of these other platforms. And it's very easy to do. You can literally select your platform from the drop-down menu, and with a couple of clicks, you're done. And why that's important, your domain name may point to your website, but you have all these other presences, and having a domain like is.art pointing to that, it literally creates a tunnel directly to you on that platform. Because if someone hears about you and you say you're on Instagram and they search for you on Instagram, they're going to see other results. They're going to see other artists. They're going to see other images that might get their attention, and they may distract them from getting to you. But if you have your name is.art and that goes directly to your Instagram, for example, it creates a tunnel that takes people right there. You say, you want to see me on Instagram? Go to my name is.art, and boom, they're right on your page. No distractions, no chance of them being lured away by some other Instagram account. So it's very practical and very useful to have a domain like is.art as your handle pointing to Instagram, to LinkedIn, to whatever platform you're interested in connecting it to.
Also, I wanted to add on, let's say if you have some videos on Instagram or some TikTok or somewhere, you don't need to say, okay, press the link below or something. You can have actually the short name is.art in the actual video, and it is a lot easier to remember instead of having the long link about something.
Yeah, so if you'd like to get your is.art domain, literally just type is.art in your browser, and then you can find out.
That's so easy, yeah.
Thank you, Roland. I'm going to add Daria back to the stage. And hopefully for the roundtable, we have the rest of our speakers.
And hopefully everyone hears everyone.
Yes. Gijs, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, thank you so much. It's already like such a nice discussion, but let's continue. And I have a, let's say, more of an overarching question to everyone. If we just think about like how changing your environment can change also the way you think and create. I don't know, like which kind of comments you might have on this. I don't know, Gijs, if you would like to start. How can it be shifting? How can it influence?
Yeah, of course, it's a no-brainer. It's a big open door here. So it's a little bit what we discussed already. But it's also that it's interesting when you're in an environment that is also dictating a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see a lot of white walls behind you, and here there's nothing white wall. It's all history and content. So every piece has content, and that's also, I think, something really interesting to live within such a space where everything has content.
Yeah, it's very rich indeed.
Yeah,
in multiple layers, etc. And I remember you were also mentioning that there are like so many different historical levels at the chateau, also with the textile related archives which you found at some point in the attic. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about that, because I believe that this is a very, like, it adds really a lot also to the
One of the treasures, actually, everybody's saying there's a treasure in the garden or there's a treasure under the house, but the real treasure is that the house was completely empty, and we found one of the attics was full of papers and books, and we found this was a personal archive of one of the previous owners, Émile Poirier, and it's like 50 years of his personal, his family, his enterprise, and the house history. And we have now 4 how do you call this, bénévoles, what's the word in English? Volunteers who are working on it to really look what it is. And what we found is he was a fabric seller, but also producer. And we have all these big, huge books with all these small pieces of fabric from 1881, which is it's a complete surprise because it's like thousands and thousands of patterns, thousands of colors, everything you don't think of. Like if you think, fine, the end of 19th century, you have black and white pictures, and you think everything is black and white. Well, it's not true. It's like super colorful, and it's an amazing treasure here in the house, and super inspiring. Like especially all the designs, the and all the big books with all the possibilities of fabric design and colors and weaving and fabrics. So that's for sure is one of the most inspiring
Yeah.
gifts of the chateau as well. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the topics to address, but also of course like all this historical heritage which we have just seen, all the wooden panels and also paintings, and I think that you were also taking care of them, restoring them. If you can tell us
Yeah.
a little more about that, because I think there was an interesting process behind it which can also become an inspiration point.
Yeah. It is of course France is like very special and peculiar on how they treat monuments. Because of these two rooms and the pigeon house, we are the highest class of monument. So we're on the level of the Notre Dame and the Versailles, which is it is what it is. We like it a lot, but it's a very slow process. But it's for sure it's very interesting. And I think what is really interesting that we are sort of in the middle of nowhere in France, which is not true, but it is true. But the people who built this and who brought in the painters and who brought in the scenery and the iconographical stories, they worked in Paris. So I think they brought like really good painters to this house to paint it. And now we're in the process of also in the I studied art history, so for us it's a super interesting process of doing our own research, but also thinking about the ethics of restoration. What are we going to do? How far do we go? Do we want everything to be really cleaned and very bright colors again, or do we want to leave it a little bit like this? For us, it's a long discussion about consolidation, at least that it's not getting worse, because there was at a certain time for 80 years it was completely neglected, and the house was more or less a ruin. But then there came a couple, and they spent like 20 years of renovation and restoration. And I think 10 years later we bought it, so we're in a really good conditional house. But still, restoration wise, they didn't do anything. So it's really interesting to see, and we know everything, and we know all the owners. We know what they did. We know when the rooms are like 12th century, 13th century, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century. So it's really interesting to sort of work with the puzzle. We are in the puzzle, and then it's also a house that is never touched, which is also special. I think though there's no fake new modernism in it. So every room, if you are in a 17th century room, you are in a 17th century room, and it's never touched, and that's also special. And it makes it really different from other houses where they took everything out and made it modern with modern comfort, and
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
it's going somewhere. Yeah.
So many topics to for the artist to be inspired by, but also I wanted to talk a little bit, and sorry, I'm just talking to Gijs now because I feel that we just need to cover the chateau a little bit in more details. I think that also artists who were arriving there, they were working with extremely diverse disciplines, right? Because I think there were, of course, like paintings and drawings, but also, for example, video projections,
Yeah.
and also some photos in the outdoor space, just hanging in there. So if you could just give us a scale of the projects which are possible there.
Yeah, basically that's one of the things, of course, that's really interesting when you're the owner of such a place, when you're going into an historical building and you want to have your exhibition there. You're mostly dealing with like a museum and all the regulations and all the things that are like in museum world, of course, because it's not their location and it's not their collection. The thing is, of course, a little bit different. With all respect, of course, for the art, we are the owners, so we can do whatever we want to do. If we say, well, we put the art in one of the barns, or we put it in the garden, or we put it in let it hanging from the house, from the top of the house, or we put it on the ceiling. We can do whatever we want to do, and that's like also, of course, for us, it's a sweet shop. It's like we can do whatever we want to do. We don't have to ask the direction or the curators, is it possible to put an artwork here? No, we take it off the wall and we hang whatever we want to hang there. So that makes it also really special. So everything, almost everything is possible. And that's also, I think, with like experimenting. And also what I want to say is that we have like nearby kiosk in which we work together. And kiosk has a very small but very special academy. So there is the possibility to do pottery, to make ceramics. There is a dark room for photography. You can do the screen printing. You can silk screens. There's a bookbinding studio. So we have also access to like all these specialist things like metalwork, cutting, because we also work with a lot of the crafts people. We do project with the crafts, with the local crafts. And there's it's called the Chambre de Métiers d'Art. So it's a sort of arts and crafts organizations. And it brings us like, it opens doors to all specific sort of techniques if you need it. It's like one handshake away, which is also really special to be connected to all these other people who are good in something really special, and we can use it and ask them if they want to participate with the artists in residence who are here. So that makes it also special.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
indeed, artists from very different disciplines can apply for the award and also hope to also be chosen for the residency.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thank you, Gijs. I wanted to ask questions both Roland and Mako, because Roland, of course, is also an ambassador of is.art and representative of the company, but then also an artist, of course. And I'm just curious, if you can describe the ideal residency setting, if you can just think about it like in one sentence or a couple of sentences, what would it be for you? Will it be something like on historical side of things like chateau, or some kind of space which is, I don't know, more nature focused somewhere, I don't know, high in the mountains or something? I think it's also nice to dream about this location sometimes. So I don't know, Roland, if you
Yes,
customize.
I
Yeah.
really liked exteriors and interiors, and I imagine myself in that place, and I feel how I can get inspired for my future projects. And of course, it's like visiting some exhibitions or art museums, and you get inspired and you get that feeling, and then you put that all together on the canvas. That's how I
Yeah.
feel.
Because you work mainly as with oil paintings, or
oil and acrylics, and I live in England for the last maybe 18 years, and the Lake District is northwest, is one of the most beautiful places in England. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so that's the inspiration point for you there.
yeah, and there is a local slates. The house is mainly built out of those gray slates. So I thought, why not to draw the nature on the nature? The slate is part of the nature. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I use for the framing driftwood, so there was no visible any screws or anything to hold those slates with the with the beautiful landscapes of around the Lake District, Ashnes Bridge, or some other places.
Nice, but it's also a sustainable way of like reusing materials that you find in the location itself. So
yeah. So I have to spend time to find the right slate,
exactly.
the right wood, and
Yeah,
and there is a
nice.
story always behind that.
Yeah, and that's exactly also what the award is about. It's about the story. So for example, like if you would have been, thinking about applying for it, like of course, like it's not just like the description of the landscape somehow, but it's this whole, all the steps of it. So I think that's really nice to keep it in mind that that's what we would like to see being submitted. Mako, I also wanted to talk with you about that. I mean, you're of course like really like you have been to so many residencies, and I think tomorrow, right, you're flying to one more on Bali. If you can tell us a little bit about that, that's also very exciting. And also in general, like about this perfect residency setting or how it can change from one place to another, some of the notable moments. Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is that ideal residency for me would be like as a like very transformative artist myself, for me would be the most important like the environment, nature, because I'm very drawn to nature, like different kinds of nature, energy itself of the residency, and the ideal residency experience would be a space where artists from like different background come together to exchange ideas, embrace their uncertainty, because this is very important as well, and allow a place, its people and collective energy to somehow inspire new ways of seeing and creating. Myself, I'm very drawn to like tropics, and that's why I'm going to Bali tomorrow. One of my like this year, I went to Mexico, and so every time I come back from the residencies, it's like a new air. It's like the new whole new inspiration of creating. So all of this together makes a good residency.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think Anastasia also has a question for Mako.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask because, we talk so much about what the residency gives you, but I'm wondering in a good way, what does it take away? Because when you arrive there, with your everyday self from the studio and from home, are there certain habits or patterns that you have to leave behind and then learn, at least temporarily?
Certainly. Like when I first started this like residency, perpetual residency life, the one that you have to have in mind is you have to leave all this rigidness, high expectations, because at some point when you go to like different residencies, you have it works for me. I leave all these expectations behind, and when whatever it comes to me, it's always exciting. I think that's the most important, what to leave behind.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I'm wondering, okay, you do almost perpetual residencies, but is there a period in the artist's life that actually asks for a residency and a period that asks for a different container? How do you manage this? Do you coordinate, your trips with certain stages or eras in your art practice?
So there are some times that I don't paint at all. But mostly when I go to residencies, sorry, I don't really understand the concept of the question itself. Can you?
Yes, I'm just wondering whether there are periods in your life and your practice when actually a residency is not what you need, when you need solitude or something different. I mean, you go to residencies a lot, so for you maybe it's something that you enriches you in any context. But I'm wondering if there is a context where you prefer to actually stay in the studio and perfect something.
Yeah. There are definitely some time that I prefer to be in my studio, because sometimes there are some projects that need like constant working and be in one place. Like for example, like big, huge canvases that need like 2 or 3 months, like constant working. And that time sometimes there are like residents for like 2 or 3 months, but mostly I go to like 1 or 1.5 month residencies. So it depends on what stage of creative work are you on. But mostly I go to the residences that are rural places, because I mentioned that like nature is like very important for me. It's like the main catalyst of inspiration. So it depends on what stage of work are you, or what kind of work are you doing, research or like heavy like producing time, or whatever you do.
Thank you. Jeff, just before we finish, are there any questions you have for our speakers, for anyone?
Well, I think it's really interesting. This is one of 2 residencies that are available as prizes for the .art Award, so it's a wonderful opportunity for some of the applicants. And then I was just curious with regard to the chateau. It's so physical, right? The physicality of the building, the physicality of all the artwork there, the outdoors, the indoors. And I'm just curious, do the artists come? Are they mostly physical artists, or do you have also digital artists coming? And I'm just curious what the experience is for a digital artist to be surrounded by so much.
Jeff is breaking up a bit. I think you got the question, right? It's about digital.
Yes, I got the question. The sound is like really a problem, but yes, I think that's of course, because for example, we have like musicians who come to make digital music here, and also I think it's a really quiet space, which means that everybody, like we are now talking about how special the chateau is, but the chateau is of course also a very silent space where people can really concentrate and work on whatever they're doing, which means that on either side, like being inspired by what this is, but also like moving yourself to one of the more quiet spaces and work on what you want to work on. It also works like this. Like for example, what I was saying, the digital music composer, he worked for weeks on this composition, being inspired by all this digital information, which has nothing to do with the chateau, of course. It's more a sound thing. And there are like, for example, there are sound artists who make sound pieces as well. So it's like literally everything is possible. But we're now really, of course, talking about this very inspirational location. But for the same, people just can retire to their own space and work on their own. Like Mako did, like really also she was in her cocoon making the paintings of that inspired, but like really into her own world. So I think that's maybe a little bit an answer to your question.
No, that was a great question and a great answer, actually. I think everything is possible should be the tagline of the chateau.
Well, I also like that Gijs was saying that people can retire there, so I'm considering retiring there in general.
It's the French. Sometimes my English is going really bad.
That's fine.
Retirer is like you're going. You're not retiring, but you get a little bit back.
You're retreating.
Yeah.
But Gijs, I got the message. I will consider it.
Retiring here. Good idea.
So on this note, I mean, I'm so grateful for everyone who joined, and also for all the speakers. I think we should do more webinars with this kind of live interactions as well. It's a lot of fun to see the context where people are. And we're very excited for everyone who will be applying for the award, and also thinking about this opportunity in mind. And of course for is.art, who is supporting it. So yeah, I think it's all like a very natural, very harmonious collaborations we have here.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Go to www.award.art, get your domain, whether it's .art or is.art, and apply before November 1st. We'll have more webinars with other jury members coming in the fall, so more tips will be shared. And of course, follow us on all our socials, where we're posting a lot of excerpts from these webinars, the most interesting parts. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.